everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am your left-handed crafter, and today I have 3 DIYs for you. The first one was inspired by this Pinterest post. It is a vase made out of wine corks. Now, I'm not going to use wine corks. I'm going to use the tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. So the first thing I do is lay out all of my blocks, and I am going to take and put 6 of them down end to end, and then you'll see later on I do go back and add a 7th one. And after I get those laid out, I'm just using the wood glue from the Dollar Tree. Now, this glue was not the best. I really don't think I would be using it again, but it is what I had, so I went ahead and used it. It was the first time I had ever used it. After I glue those all down end to end, I go back and I start stacking them the opposite way until I get those blocks filled up, and then I'm going to glue every other one down. So I have all of those blocks, but I'm not using all of those blocks. It just kind of helped me to get my spacing right and to get them all tight together. But like I said, I am actually gluing every other one down. And if you notice in the video, I do make a mistake and glue the wrong one down, and I have to go back and fix that. But whatever, I eventually get it. And I did use several of the smaller packs of the tumbling tower blocks. I was trying to make sure that they all were the same size, but I did notice that if you got them out of the same box, they were the same size. But after you started adding multiple boxes, the sizes did vary a lot. And there is the 7th one that I had added. And now I'm just going back in after fixing my mistake and gluing the rest of those blocks down. Now taking 7 more blocks, I'm going to take and glue those together end to end, and I'm going to add them to the top of our open faced blocks. And like I said, this glue was not working for me at all, so you may see me having to re-glue several blocks. Now that it's nice and straight, or as straight as I can get it, I let it dry, and I go back and I am going to do 3 more of these. So each one of these will be the sides of our vase, and of course it's going to be square with 4 sides. So again, 7 blocks I laid down and glued those end to end. And then I added blocks going vertical, perpendicular to those blocks, and then I'm only gluing every other one down, and I did get it right this time. And then after I get those glued down, I add 7 more blocks, glue those together end to end, and then attach those to the top of the open face blocks. And after I get all 4 sides completed, I start gluing them together, and this time I use hot glue. And as I had said, some of the blocks were different sizes, so I did have some gaps on some of the corners. So I'm just using this mastic from the Dollar Tree, and I just run it down into those cracks, and then I just try to smooth it out. I actually end up using the finger protector later. You'll see that in a minute. It just worked better. And I would run it down through the mastic, wipe it off, and then make another run if I needed to get it nice and smooth. And then I let that dry, and then I began to paint it. And I am just using Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, and I just paint the entire thing. I paint the outside first, and then I go and paint the inside. And when I paint the inside, I have to paint half of it and then turn it around and do the other half so that I can reach it, because it is fairly tall. And here is our final vase. This sits at 13 inches tall. You guys let me know what you think. This next DIY is also Pinterest inspired. So I have this little twine bead macrame wood type hanging. This actually is clay, but mine's going to be wood. I love this. It's a very bohemian style. I knew when I made this my daughter was going to claim it instantly. I've made several of these, and if you like this kind of decor, let me know, and I will be more than glad to make some more videos. So I have these wooden rounds. I got these at a thrift store, and they have a slot in them, and it came with numbers, and the numbers went down inside of the slots. I'm not using the numbers, but I am going to use these little bases here. So the first thing I do is just take and score it a few times to cut it in half, and then I can easily snap it in two. And the little pieces that are left, I just score those as well, and then I just use my scissors to cut those off. And then using the sanding block, I just sand the edges to make sure that they are straight and smooth and ready for painting. Now I cut 2 of those circles so that I have 4 rounds. And using my chalk paint, this is Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, I paint the edges, and I also paint the front and the back. I let it dry, and then I give it another coat. Now the little wood ring up there in the corner, I was going to use that on this piece, but I actually changed my mind and used something else. But you also could do the same thing, use something similar that you might have on hand as well. Now I need holes in all these pieces so that I can string them together. I wanted a hole on the top part where it's straight, and then the bottom part where it's curved. So I'm going to use a little trick that my dad taught me. I take all 4 pieces, stack them together, try to get them nice and lined up as possible, and then using painter's tape, I tape them together so that they stay in place. Using my ruler, I try to find the center, make a little mark, and then I'm just going to use this little tool here, and I drill a hole. I flip it over, and then using my ruler, I just kind of line it up in the center of the hole that I previously made and make a mark on the curved edge, and then I drill another hole. And then I found this little wooden round that I had in my stash. So I used this instead of that ring. Like I said, you could totally use something else similar that you might have. And I give it a paint or a coat of the paint as well. And once it's dry, I go and drill a hole in the top and the bottom of the circle as well. Now it is time to string these together. So I wanted a tassel, and I was going to make a tassel, but then I realized I had already had a tassel that I was going to use for a previous project, but then I never used it. But I just took the twine, wrapped it around my hand about 25-30 times, took another piece of the twine and tied it around to one end of the loops there, and then I can start stringing my piece together. So I'm using some little wooden beads that I had. I got these from Amazon. I leave them unfinished, but you could paint them if you wanted to. So I add a bead to my tassel, and then one of the half rounds, bead, half round, bead, half round. And you saw in the beginning I started to use a needle to string it. It went through the beads wonderfully, but it would not go through those half rounds. Now I could have made the hole a little bigger, but I just discarded the needle and wrapped some of the painter's tape around the end at an angle, and it worked just fine. Then after I get my little round on there, I use one of the same size beads that I have been using, and then I used a smaller one, and then one of the other regular size that I had been using, and then another small one, and then I loop it around and tie a knot. This gives us something to hang it with. And after I get the knot tied, I clip off the little end of the twine still left there. And then to finish my tassel, remember I had started this, but then I didn't use it. I used the rest of the twine that I had clipped off, and I take and tie a knot around the top part of the tassel, good and tight as I can get it. And with the little tail pieces left over, I use those to wrap around the twine and glue them down. Now my glue gun was just starting to heat up, so the glue was not really that hot yet. It was melted but not really hot. And then I just clip off the ends of that tassel to get the ends nice and straight. And here is the finished piece. My daughter has already claimed this, as I kind of figured, but you guys let me know what you think. And for my final DIY, again, I saw this on Pinterest, and I knew I could replicate it, or at least I thought I could. So I have these letters. These came from a thrift store. I do believe these came from Amazon, though. I had a H, a M, a E, a L, and something else I can't remember. But anyways, I'm going to use the H, the M, and the E, and I am going to use this little wooden heart that I got from the Dollar Tree during Valentine's Day. And I'm going to paint these with a coat of the plaster. Now the heart, I gave that 2 coats. The E, I gave it 1 coat. But that M and that H, I had to give both of those 2 coats. Once everything is dry, I take and sand all of the edges, and I do the letters and the heart. And I really had to go over that M and H because I had to get through my plaster paint plus the black and the blue paint that was on them. And now that they are sanded, I know you can't really see the sanding that well on the video, but again, I just did the edges and that was it. But now I'm taking white paint. This is just plain white paint. It's acrylic paint, and I just give it a dry brushing. I just wanted a slight color variation. Again, you can't really see it that well on camera, but you can in person. Then using this piece of wood, I actually got this at Dollar Tree as well, and I'm going to use one of my favorite stains, which is Jacobian. I love Jacobian and I love the walnut stain. I just like those darker stains. Anyways, I do the sides, I do the front, and I do the back, and then I also wipe it off. And when I'm staining or painting, one reason why I like to do the back side is because it makes it more finished, but also sometimes one side looks a little bit better than the other side. So of course I use the better looking side. And now it is time to assemble. So of course I am spelling out the word home. And I want to make sure that I get these on the board nice and straight. So I'm going to line my board with painter's tape, and I will use this as a guide to place down my letters and my heart. So the side pieces, I line the end of the board with the edge of the painter's tape. But for the top and the bottom, I felt like it wasn't going to be enough room. So I actually just placed the edge of the board in the center of the painter's tape. And I'm going to place the letters right at the top of that bottom strip of painter's tape, and that's going to make sure that my word is nice and straight. And then using hot glue, I will attach them to the board. I feel like my head is in every shot. I'll try to work on that. Anyways, I remove the painter's tape and I take a piece of twine and I make a little loop and tie a knot. And yes, I am struggling to tie the knot, so I think it's time to cut my fingernails. They're definitely getting too long, or too long to craft with maybe. Anyways, I clip off the ends, and right where the little indentation of the heart is, I add some glue and add my little knot. And I just wanted to make it look like it was hanging. So on the back side, I take and add some glue and attach it to the back of the board there. And I felt like it just needed something else, so I am going to make a twine bow as well. So using more of the twine, I just take and wrap it around my fingers about 4 or 5 times, snip it off, add another little piece to tie in the center. And then I clip off the little excess there. And I pull out my loops, and then I hot glue it to the top of the heart. And here is the end result. You guys, let me know what you think. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that as well. And I will see you guys next time.